This is Joy Asonye Live. Thank you so much for joining us. As usual, we'll be talking about very important issues that affect you. And today, we'll be talking about the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. A lot of you must have heard about this. It protects you and protects all stakeholders when it comes to the administration of criminal justice. But how much do others know? That collaborative effort among stakeholders, is it indeed strong enough? That's what we'll be talking. And we'll also get to the key components of this very important act that guides everything that we do, literally. And in the studio to discuss all of this is Barrister Felix Ota-Okojie. He's the Secretary, Federal Justice Sector Reform Coordinating Committee of the Federal Ministry of Justice. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
My pleasure to be here.
Right at this time, we'll just go for a short break to return to get into the nitty-gritty of what this ACJA is about. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still Joy Asonye Live. Like I told you, we'll be discussing the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, a very important document that everybody needs to understand. But good thing we have the Secretary, Federal Justice Sector Reform Coordinating Committee of the Federal Ministry of Justice right here with us. Thank you again for making our time. I'm sure it must be very tight for you, but you still decided to come. But let's go straight to the awareness level of Nigerians. No, let's not go to other stakeholders, but the citizens who should even understand this. How much awareness is there?
Okay, thank you for having me. As you recall, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act was enacted in 2015. And from 2015 to date, we are talking of a legislation that has been in place for the past 8 years. For that period, a lot of sensitization, advocacy have been done to put that legislation in the public space so that Nigerians will be aware of its existence and take advantage of the valuable opportunities and safeguards that the law provides for the citizens of this country. And beyond that, the ACJA having been enacted in 2015, efforts were made to also get the states to pass their own administration of criminal justice law. Because like you know, we run a federal system. Apart from having the legislation at the federal level, there was also need for states to have the same legislation. So we encourage states and supported states to also pass their own administration of criminal justice law. And by the grace of God, as of today, the 36 states in the federation have their own administration of criminal justice law. So to that extent, the laws are in public space and citizens are quite aware of the law, and the law is alive and working.
Right. For people who are just wondering, what is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act? What maybe you start with the key components of what it really is, the entire document. What is it about?
Okay, the Administration of Criminal Justice Law is the law that harmonized what we used to have as the Criminal Procedure Code of the Northern Region and the Criminal Procedure Act of the Southern Region of this country. So the Administration of Criminal Justice Law now harmonized those two procedural laws into one legislation. Right. So that is what gave rise to the Administration of Criminal Justice Law. So today you no longer have the Criminal Procedure Code has been repealed, and the Criminal Procedure Act has also been repealed. So what you have today is the Administration of Criminal Justice Law that operates across the country side by side with the state Administration of Criminal Justice Law. So all the federal high courts now implement the Administration of Criminal Justice Act because they are federal courts.
Right.
Then the FCT courts, because the National Assembly legislates for the FCT high courts also administer the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, while the state high courts administer their own state Administration of Criminal Justice Law.
Now let's talk about the law enforcement agencies and the training and education that has to go in there, because that is often where Nigerians have the problem of telling you, I know this bit is my right, but then it seems to be flouted. What level of education and awareness or training has gone into ensuring law enforcement agencies are also aware of this law and implement it in the course of their duties?
A lot of effort has gone into training, particularly for the law enforcement agencies who are saddled with responsibilities under the law, and also to bring them in tune with the many safeguards and human rights provisions that are there to protect the ordinary citizens of this country, as far as the administration of criminal justice law is concerned. So we have continuously trained security officers, particularly the police in this respect, to bring them to align with the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act.
What would you say the reception has been when it comes to their knowing their obligation and discretionary powers? What was the reception when you do these trainings?
I would say the reception has been quite encouraging, because we have taken this training around the 6 geopolitical zones in this country, where we bring police officers and magistrates in this regard who are saddled with the responsibility of visiting police stations to oversight what is happening at the police station, particularly with respect to persons that are arrested and detained in police cells, to ensure that their rights are protected and to ensure that they are arraigned for those who deserve to be arraigned, and to also ensure that they are not kept longer than necessary as provided by the relevant laws.
When these magistrates come for the oversight that you just mentioned, do we see the release? Because there are cases where for very minor offenses we get people detained for so long, and you ask what happened. They fought. Okay, charge this person to court. So how often is this, are the magistrates supposed to have this oversight visit, and how effective has it been? Do the police also comply with these magistrates when they come on these visits?
Well, by Section 34 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, it empowers magistrates to visit police stations and to inspect police at least once in a month.
Once in a month?
In a month. So the implication is that it can be more than once, but the law says they must undertake that visit once in a month, at least once in a month. And in the course of that visit, the law empowers them to visit the cells to ascertain the number of persons that are in detention, and also interact with those persons by way of finding out the offense they've committed, how long they have been in detention, and in deserving cases grant bail to those who deserve to be granted bail, and also give appropriate instructions in terms of directing the police to arraign those suspects in appropriate courts to enable their trial to commence instead of keeping them in custody. So the reception has been, like I said, quite encouraging, particularly in the FCT, where we have officers who interface with these police stations, various police stations, through the PDSS, that's the Police Duty Solicitor Scheme. And we have officers who on a daily basis goes to these police stations to ensure that people who are arrested are given necessary legal assistance, and where necessary support the police to ensure that they are charged within the time limits allowed by law.
Right. You seem very optimistic as to how these trainings and awareness campaigns, especially for the police, the law enforcement agents, how well it is going. However, you've also been accused, or those who often ask for the reforms and keep advocating for reforms, especially in our law enforcement agencies, that the trainings often are of certain cadre, and these trainings do not cascade to these men in the field, the boots in the field that should have it, because they interface or engage more with the public. Are there initiatives to ensure that everybody understands what the ACJA is about and indeed tries to implement it, and not just senior police officers attending these trainings and they go back and it doesn't cascade, and we see citizens' rights really being flouted?
You see, there are various levels of trainings, you know, and the police, like you know, is a very big institution. And we at our level, we are not able to cover reach every police officer in terms of building this capacity. What we have done is to embark on what we call train the trainers.
Right.
So we bring police officers. For instance, we ensure that every police station has a representative in our trainings, so that when we train that officer, he goes back and pass that knowledge and information to his colleagues at his police station or his station, as the case may be. And beyond that, we also engage with the senior officers. Like you know, the police is a very organized institution, and the hierarchy, there's a hierarchy of authority. And the idea is when the superiors are in tune with the law, they are able to also bring their subordinates to align with the provisions of the law. For instance, if you train a DPO, you train a DCO, you train the SP and all that who are in that hierarchy in a police station, it's easier for them to pass that information to the subordinates down below, and also ensure that they act in line with the law. So this has been the strategy that we have deployed across the country in the course of building capacities of security agencies to align them with the provisions of the law.
As a journalist, sometimes when you have these conversations with the police, law enforcement agents, they give you the dire situation in which they have to also operate. Some of them do not have, according to some stories I have heard, some of them do not have provision for stationaries in the office. And so even though the ACJA might say do not task the suspect, they do not have a choice. They will still have to ask for all these monies and all that. So where do we balance it so that the public understands rather that they are not asking me for this because the government has indeed provided. It is because it's not provided. They need it if they must do my work or investigate something I'm coming with. So what do you do in that instance?
No, the police is a very responsible institution. And like, you know, they do their best to ensure that they carry out their responsibility in the most effective and efficient manner. If there are challenges, those are issues that they can address within the institution, you know. But that does not in any way take away the fact that the job needs to be done, and if it has to be done, the institution needs to be supported to do the job. So to that extent, I think government will continue to support them in that regard to ensure that they discharge their responsibility the best way possible.
In the bid to ensure the awareness and trainings and education of these law enforcement agents, do you also petition government or press that more is done? Because it's very disheartening when you're in trouble, you call the nearest police station and they do not have the fuel to come over to your aid, and it is a legitimate concern for Nigerians. You do not have fuel to come to my aid, so what else am I supposed to do?
There are various levels of engagement, you know, in terms of engaging with government to support institutions, and I'm sure the police are having that levels of engagement with relevant institutions to drum home the need for them to be supported to discharge their responsibilities, and as they continue to do that, I'm sure.
But do you agree that this lack of support is affecting the implementation of ACJA?
It's not just at the police end, You know, it's a collaboration. When police do their bit and other institutions do their bit, then AJA will be in the most effective way implemented.
When you say others, who do you mean?
You know, in the criminal justice system, police is just one of those institutions that are involved in criminal justice administration. When police, a crime is reported to the police, they investigate, and where there are justifiable reasons to prosecute the suspect involved in that crime, they arraign that suspect before another institution, which is the court, you know. And in some cases, they need the prosecutor from the Federal Ministry of Justice, in this respect, the DPP office, to support that prosecutorial process. You find that while they do their bit, the court does a bit. Then even the suspect himself also needs a lawyer to represent him or her in defense of the crime alleged against him or her. So that is also another stakeholder in that process.
Right.
So it is the coming together of all these stakeholders that leads to the dispensation of justice.
Now, I'm happy you mentioned the lawyers who have to come in at some point, but can you address the animosity that we often see between lawyers and the police? Is it a legitimate concern for Nigerians, especially when the lawyers come, of course, with that air of, I've often heard that the lawyers often come with the air of superiority, and so the police want to, you know, attack that as much as they can. Is that what the problem is? Because very severally I've seen that animosity. What are you doing about that?
Well, that is no longer the case.
Really? It's no longer the case? You seem really optimistic that...
Yes, it's no longer the case. Because with the continuous engagement that we've had with all the stakeholders, when you go to police stations these days as a lawyer, and not just going there, but also going there and conducting yourself in the most respectable manner, I think the police will be receptive to engage with you to ensure that whatever the issues that brought you to the station is addressed. So with continuous education, some of those stereotypes that used to exist between the police and lawyers, they are being addressed, because on a continuous basis, not just only the capacity and sensitization that we do at the level of the committee that I represent, even civil society are also involved in that enlightenment process, and also building that good working relationship between the police and the bar.
Let me share an experience. Maybe with the scenario will give you an idea as to what I mean, and maybe you would also tell us. I mean, there was a case where an investigation hadn't been concluded. A suspect was brought in, and that suspect called on a lawyer, and the lawyer said, you know what, and when during questioning, the lawyer was present, and he said, no, my client will not respond to this question. It got so bad that that lawyer was also arraigned, or rather detained, because the police felt like, I mean, you're standing in the way of our investigation and all of that. So with the ACJA, just give us, for our viewers listening to us right now, who was wrong at this point?
Well, it will be difficult to determine who was wrong, because you may not have all the facts,
but
you know, as to what actually happened. You know, if you hear from one of the party and you are not hearing from the other, you will not be able to give an honest assessment.
But does the lawyer have the power to tell his client not to speak or respond to some questions?
No, what the law says is that the suspect can refuse to speak until his lawyer is available. Okay? That's what the law says. The law did not say, oh, the lawyer can ask the suspect not to respond to questions. Okay? So if the lawyer is asking the suspect, don't respond to questions that you are being asked.
A certain question.
You are being asked. The police might feel is obstructing the investigation
but
process.
Is it within the lawyer's right to look at a question that might implicate his client and say, do not respond to that?
It is not at that point. That is why I say what the law says, that the law says the lawyer needs to be around. Why does the law want somebody? It's not even just the lawyer. The law says anybody. The law went further to say anybody of the suspect's choice.
Okay, it doesn't have to be the lawyer.
It doesn't have to be a lawyer. The whole essence is to give the suspect confidence to be able to express himself, to ensure that the whatever information he gives is not obtained under duress. You get it? And that is why is to safeguard the suspect. But the law didn't say that the lawyer can ask the suspect not to respond to questions.
So that would be considered
that would be considered an obstruction.
Okay. Well, we have so much more we have to unravel on today's edition. We'll go for a short break now. When we return, we'll still have the good barrister right here with us to tell us more about what the Administration of Criminal Justice Act really, the provisions of it really have. So we'll be right back after this. This is still Joy Asonye Live. Welcome back from that very short break. This is still Joy Asonye Live, where we are discussing Administration of Criminal Justice Act. And in the studio, and we've been discussing this, he's been here with me all the first hour of the program, is Barrister Felix Ota-Okojie, Secretary, Federal Justice Sector Reform Coordinating Committee of the Federal Ministry of Justice. Again, I thank you for staying back and discussing this very important act that all Nigerians should know. But you've been talking about these trainings that stakeholders are involved. Do you have targeted campaigns for citizens, one that they too can understand this act? There's somebody often says that Nigerians do not like to read. So when you say you can go online and you can get this document and you see how your rights can be protected, and where your right stops, where it is where another ones begin, it's probably tough. But are there targeted campaigns to ensure that people know that they have a right to even ask a policeman when you are being arrested what your offense is, and the policeman is compelled to tell you?
Well, apart from just what we do, there are also other civil society organizations that are also involved in public enlightenment as far as this law is concerned. And this is all over the place, bringing people together, civil society organizations like FIDA, doing that for women, even the NBA. I'm aware the NBA undertook a lot of these trainings across the country with the support of development partner. The whole essence is to build public awareness about the law, and to let the public know that there are a lot of safeguards that have been provided by this law, which they can invoke at any point in time where their rights have been trampled upon. And also to let law enforcement agencies know the prohibitions that have been provided by this law, things that they can no longer do, and when they do, they take full responsibility for their action. And beyond that, you also know that the Police Act of 2022 has also made elaborate provisions for reform, particularly actions and conduct of police officers. Some of those actions that used to be tolerated are now expressly prohibited by legislation, particularly the Police Act. So we continue to encourage police officers that they should familiarize themselves with the provisions of this law, so they don't run foul of it, because ignorance of the law is no excuse when the chips are down. So we'll continue to create that awareness, and they've continued to embrace those trainings, and we hope in no distant time that things will get better than what it is today.
So at cases where there's non-compliance, what should a citizen do? You just come, you're arresting me, you're bungling me into the vehicle. I keep asking, what do I do? What did I do, rather? And they, oh, just go. Well, you're joining me to the police station. We've seen several instances of such. So in that case, what would you suggest that that person should do?
That is where his legal representative comes in, you know. And that is why the law says you can refuse to make a statement until you have your legal representative or anybody of your choice. You know, if you have a legal representative, if you were arrested in a way and manner that is not permitted by law, it is the duty of your legal representative to take necessary steps to ensure that that infringement on you or on your person is addressed. And like I said, that's why we are also training and encouraging law enforcement agencies to familiarize themselves with the law, to know to what extent they are permitted by law to take certain actions against a citizen, irrespective of the situations and circumstances.
I'm happy you mentioned legal representation. How many people can in fact afford legal representation in Nigeria as we speak, considering the economic challenges we're already facing?
Well, legal representation, that is why the law says anybody of your choice. So if you cannot afford a legal representation, you can call a relation, you can call a friend, as long as that person is your choice, is somebody that you want to be with you at the point of making your statement, then that person is entitled to be there while you are making that statement. That is one. Then two, you know, we have institutions that also provide pro bono services. That is why government deemed it fit to establish the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria. It's meant to assist those who cannot afford legal representation. So if a citizen falls within that category and is able to reach out to the council, and we have also seen situations where if a suspect is brought to court and he does not have the resources to engage a legal representative, the court on its own can request that the Legal Aid Council provide legal representation for that suspect. So, and that they've been doing within the limit of their resources and personnel. And we even now we have seen where private chambers are now offering pro bono services to support persons who cannot afford legal representation. The whole essence is to ensure that due process is followed and justice is delivered in a way that is consistent with the law.
Okay, so let's talk technology and how technology can enhance the enforcement or the implementation rather of ACJA. Do you think we've done enough in terms of data collection? It seems like one can move from one place to the other, no documentation of any sort. Even when you have cases pending, how can technology basically enhance it? ACJA recognizes the importance of technology in driving the administration of criminal justice. That's why in section 29, it provides for the establishment of what is called criminal data registry, criminal record registry. That registry is supposed to be a warehouse for data or suspects that are arrested and their particulars taken, and those informations are fed into the system and they are warehoused in that registry in a way that they are saved, they are retrievable, and that will help to ensure, like we find in other clients, where it is easy for you to profile a suspect. Right.
Once a suspect is arrested, you put his particulars on the system. You are able to profile him, his records, if he has if he has been in breach before, he has been prosecuted, or whatever offense he has committed in the past. You are able to see those records, and that helps you to know the suspect better, and also to be able to investigate him properly if it's one that have a series of criminal records of offenses he has indulged over time, you know. So that is ongoing, because government is now supporting the effort to put that infrastructure in place so that we can now also begin to develop our own criminal data and to support the administration of criminal justice.
Now, when you look at the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, are there components you would like to be tweaked here and there? Would you suggest a review? Because I've been hearing from some quarters that there should be a review of that act.
You know, there's no legislation that is perfect. You know, as you begin to implement legislation, you begin to see the pitfalls. And that's why you have what is called amendments. You know, when you make a legislation, in the course of implementation, you see the strength and weakness of that legislation. Where there are obvious gaps, then you seek an amendment to cover the gaps that have been identified. And the Administration of Criminal Justice Act is no exception in that regard. In the course of implementing the Act, in the course of these 8 years, some gaps have been identified. And effort is ongoing to seek an amendment of the Act so that we can address those gaps and those shortcomings, and some of the provisions that the court has found overreaching, either the Constitution or other legislations, so that we can have the opportunity of addressing them. So effort in that regard is
which jumps out for you when you look at the gaps in this document, in the Act?
Well, for instance, you know, there were attempts to address the delays in criminal trials, where you have maybe a judge who is handling hearing a criminal case is now elevated to a superior court, maybe from the High Court to the Court of Appeal, to address a situation where you now have to start all over again, what you call de novo trial, and because of that, delay the trial process of that case as a result of the elevation of the hearing judge of that. Aja made an attempt to say, okay, the judge can continue to hear such matter, even if elevated.
Right.
The question was, after his elevation, can he still competently sit as a High Court judge? Okay, and the Court of Appeal and Superior Courts have said no, he cannot. For instance, that is a gap that needs to be addressed. And there's also the issue of interlocutory applications that are oftentimes used to store the trial of criminal cases. Some courts have said yes, it can no longer serve as estoppel, but some have also disagreed to say the right to appeal is a right that cannot be taken away. You know, so these are also areas that we need to streamline the ACJ so that it can be definite on what needs to be done in situations and circumstances like that.
Okay, so what would you say when it comes to cooperation and coordination? Is there ways all stakeholders can come in, especially I would still talk about the animosity, even though you say that it's getting better.
Yes.
The law enforcement agencies, lawyers, and how can we better that coordination and cooperation?
You see, a lot is being done in that regard. For instance, the committee I represent is a coordinating platform. That committee has representations from all the justice institutions, including the police. It's a platform where we resolve cross-cutting and cross-institutional issues and challenges. That is also an effort to build synergy. Beyond that, there are also instruments that have been developed, you know, to foster coordination, to foster synergy, to foster cooperation between institutions. So various platforms and efforts are being made to set up, or efforts made to foster, to build synergy among institutions in the criminal justice system. The whole essence is to ensure that all work together to achieve the goal of a speedy, fair, just criminal justice system in the country.
So what are you also doing? Because the biggest thorn in the neck is the trust that the citizens should have on law enforcement agencies. What would you say to our viewers to this evening when it comes to that trust and the public perception of the law enforcement agencies, so that there will be cooperation and even intelligence gathering from the citizens?
Yes, that trust is being built. You know, it's not something that we can achieve
in a day.
Yeah, but it's something that we need to consciously build, and that building that trust is not just on the part of the police alone. It also has to do with on the part of the citizens themselves, because if you look at it, there are also instances where the citizens has also overreached themselves in terms of reacting to whatever the police may have done or a security personnel may have done. You know, that too further strains the relationship. But where all parties conduct themselves within the limits of the law, you find that there will be the relationship can be better, and that is why first is to have the legislation that defines that relationship, and the second is for all parties to abide by the details of that legislation, and that is what the ACJ has attempted to do. So as we continue to build the awareness, and both the security personnel and the citizens themselves are becoming more aware of what is expected from everybody in that circle, then the relationship can only get better.
It can only get better.
Yes.
But let's also address the concerted effort by the media as well. I mean, with social media, would you say it has made or marred the entire process? We've seen more videos now. People are more vocal now about what's going on. And what would you say about this contemporary way of dismissing information?
Well, it has its good and bad side, you know, because bringing some of these things to the public space through the social media and others, we have also seen situations where it has instigated the kind of reaction that is not also palatable. You know, if those things are not brought to the public domain, particularly through means that you cannot determine you cannot verify and determine the source, and that prompts you to react to what you have heard or to what you have seen, you know, that will not be a good use of the media. But the other good side of it is that we have also seen, like I said earlier, where security personnel who attempts to overreach themselves in the course of carrying out their duty, social media has also helped to expose such conducts, and that has helped the relevant authorities to take steps to nip such things in the bud.
So how do we get a balance?
And when they are nipped in the bud, it serves as a deterrent to other officers who may have such a tendency, you know, and that helps the system. So that is the good part of it. But where these informations are dished out without some level of responsibility, taking into consideration the implications that may trade such information being available in the public space, that is also one area where we need to guide against.
So how do we get this balance? Because there's a school of thought that says let's get this information out there and we would see changes. There's others that say, oh, please have some responsibility, be responsible in the way you put it out there and all that. So what would you expect that the citizens do to strike a balance?
The balance, in my view, is responsibility, you know, and that responsibility is first to ensure that your source is authentic, is verifiable, the information that you are putting out is authentic, you know, that you are not just putting out information to the public space because you have certain objective in mind, or you want to instigate certain reactions that you know will have adverse consequences on the society. So the bottom line is responsibility on the part of whoever is putting out that information, and also responsibility on the part of whoever is reacting to that information. So on both sides, what is required is responsibility.
You know, when we were on that break, I was telling you about cases where you stop a vehicle with individuals inside, you order them out, and because you think somebody is filming you, the law enforcement agents would collect the phone, smash it, and all of that. Would you say, in the bid for getting all these things out there, it was right for these law enforcement agents to smash the phone because you feel you're recorded? Do the citizens even have the right to record a law enforcement agent at work?
Well, if the law enforcement officer is doing an illegitimate or carrying out an illegal action, why not? Provided you are sure that what he's doing is not supported by law. And you need the evidence to be able to show that what the officer is doing is not supported by law. And if that goes to show the reason why he will smash that phone, because if he thinks that what he or she is doing is justified, he doesn't need to smash your phone, you know. All he will do is, okay, let's go to the appropriate authority, and when he gets there, he justifies what he has done.
Right.
So the reason for smashing the phone is because that he or she knows that what he or she is doing is wrong. So, and he doesn't want that to be seen or to be exposed.
But in some crimes,
because of the consequences.
In some crimes, they even have body cams, cameras that show. Do you think in Nigeria that can ever work?
It's not that it can work. If it's working in other crimes, it can also work here.
Well, we have
why do we have it in other crimes? It's to check the officers themselves. Because if an officer has a body scan and he knows that whatever he or she is doing is being recorded by what he is putting on by himself, he will conduct himself, you know. And that is why you see in those crimes where they have those body scans, the officers conduct themselves within the precept of the law.
So is this something we should start thinking about, the conversation towards having Nigerian law enforcement agents where
anything that can be done to bring about a peaceful, lawful, organized society is a welcome development, in my view.
Now, finally, do you think they are overstretched? When you look at the population of the Nigerian population and the population of the law enforcement agents, what would your suggestion be to get more foot on the ground? What would your suggestion be?
There's no doubt that they are overstretched, because if you look at the population vis-a-vis the numbers of the security personnel that we have in this country, is few. But if you also look at the ratio by United Nations
I think that's 1 to every 10.
Yes, you will find that we are really way behind, and the solution is to get more hands, you know, to get more hands into the net, so that we'll have more security officers to secure the country, secure you and I.
Well, we get more to secure you and I. That's a good way to end today's edition of Asonye Live. Thank you again for being part of the program.
Thank you very
and I
much for
urge everybody to go get that document and see how you can read it and know what is expected of you and what is expected of law enforcement agencies, and how you can also get help from the magistrates and other stakeholders involved in the administration of criminal justice. We've been discussing with Barrister Felix Ota-Okojie, Secretary Federal Justice Sector Reform Coordinating Committee of the Federal Ministry of Justice. Again, I thank you for being part of the program.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
My name is Joy Asonye. This is where we draw the curtains. Have a wonderful evening. Rest assured, we'll be back tomorrow with so much more.